The first meeting of 20 Executive Committee of the Columbia County Economic Development Corporation to order, and ask if everyone has read the minutes from December 7th, and if so, could I have a motion to accept them?
I'll make a motion.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Next item is the 2022 discharge duties.
I'd like to ask Lisa to join us so that we can go through the various regulatory requirements and as we begin the organizational process for 2023.
Okay, so on the back page of your packet, you're going to find what you did last year. Well, not everything you did last year, but what you did that was fairly important and not confidential. You reviewed and reaffirmed the charter. You completed and reviewed a self-evaluation of the committee's discharge duties in 2021. That's what we're doing for 2022. You reviewed staff and staffing needs. You reviewed inactive board members, referring the issues to the governance committee. You heard updates on new initiatives, including E4All, broadband, new housing projects, potential, and updates on the strategic planning process and project updates on the City of Hudson IDA and County IDA projects. You reviewed and recommended the extension of a contract with the current president and CEO for 2 years. You reviewed and authorized the extension of a contract with the current broadband consultants to continue the task of expanding access throughout the county. You reviewed the past year's progress and discussed projects and changes for the upcoming year. 2022. A lot of work.
So do we
So
need
need
to vote on
to
that or
approve-
something?
we
What
need
do we
to
do?
approve this, and then we submit this. It's part of your requirements.
So we need a motion to accept the executive committee.
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
Except for discharge duties as listed.
okay, and a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. That's it?
So your compliance for right now.
Thank you. And now, back to Mike, if we could, for staffing review.
Well, we want to welcome Stephen Vandenberg, who joined us yesterday as our business development specialist, working with Martha in the Lone area. We're grateful for him for coming back the second day. In this job market, not everybody does that. But we did have our first staff meeting of the year yesterday, and we had lunch brought in, and it's going to get great because we have Chris Brown starting next Tuesday. So not to have him feel bad, we're going to do the same thing and get on a roll here with, and what we talked about was having weekly staff meetings for 4 to 6 weeks, and then see if it's every other week works. But we're moving beyond the administrative aspect of COVID, where some of those things fell short. Jessica and I have taken an initial cut at the handbook, the employee handbook. I had discussed this with Elena DeFio-Keen, our HR lawyer. At the end of the year, there are certain legal or certain regulatory and legislative updates that she needs to make. So she asked us to go through it. Jessica and I are going to clean it up, and then we're going to give it to the staff to look at, and then we're going to meet with Elena to refine, and then we'll bring it to the executive committee, the governance committee, and the board. And my goal would be to approve that in February. But I do think that we've been reviewing it every 2 years, and I think that with some of the changes that the legislature have made, and one of the things that Jessica, and I think when someone new reads it, and Stephen will have you read it as well with everyone else, because when you're new, we had a continuing compensation policy that if you were out for illness for 30 days, we would continue your pay. But that's what family medical leave does. So when we put that in, we didn't take out the thing that we had family medical leave here in essence on a much narrower basis in the state's plan. But a lot of it's cleaning up those things. Another thing we want to look at is the vacation or PTO. We don't have vacation, it's all rolled into one. You know how that works? I mean, no one's gonna join us for, 2-week vacation anymore. I mean, you're just gonna have to, and where you earn it day by day. I mean, it was, some of the things are archaic. And I know when I worked for the state, you earned 1.5 days every 30 hours you worked or something. It was crazy. And I think that we want to get some input from not only the staff, but the board, and then let it hopefully get Elena's help to make sure that it's done in a way that's, we're not doing something that violates any HR laws. We're also going to schedule with new people here. We do have the obligation under the state law to have certain mandatory training, including harassment and other state mandated training. And now that we're going to have new people here, we're going to have that, get all that done again by the end of February. And then we're going to.
Does the board need to do that too?
It wouldn't hurt to get the executive version of it, but we can look into that. The other thing we're looking at is Martha and Lisa and I had reviewed a proposal from the payroll company downstairs about an HR consultant, not the lawyer, but someone who would come in and work with us for job descriptions, performance review, processes, things that we didn't have when there were 4 people here, but now with 7, that we probably should have had with 4, but they're people were their job descriptions were pretty well set. So we want to, Jessica's background in government, I think, brings some plague lights that some of our processes and procedures were done at the hip level. Anything else, Jessica, that you wanted to?
No, I think, no, I don't.
And I think, we just want the board and the staff to know that, these things will be done in consult with them and in, modern day practice. I'm going to jump. Yesterday, we had our first meeting with the auditors. Matt Vanderbeck and Nicole Overbaugh came in, and we went through with Kat and Jessica and I our general ledger and the issues that we think they're going to want to take a closer look at. Starting with the fact that the 9H lot sold. Andy closed that the Thursday before New Year's. And so now we own a piece of property. So now we had to call the insurance agent and get it listed for liability. And now we have to figure out how to get it on our books. And it's not a hard thing. It's just that we're using net restricted assets, which were the sale of previous land that the county told us to keep the principal for further direction. And so, that will be moved from the bottom of the balance sheet up to the aggregate line of the value of our property. And so we're working with the accountants and Kat to do that in the appropriate way. We did.
Where does the county stand with taking that?
Well, I think what you're going to see ultimately is about a $23,000 out of pocket on CEDC's part, because there were some closing costs, and remember they transferred $88,000 from the IDA to us,
Right.
and then also we had about $9,000 from the Hartford sale.
But do they want to take title of it?
Well, they have to get a vote by the Board of
Right.
Supervisors, and I think the issue was that some of the supervisors felt it was moving too fast, where they didn't have sufficient information to make it happen. But I do think it'll happen. I think the real issue was it's a $15 million building they're proposing. So it couldn't be something that the Board of Supervisors rushed. Now, the good news is, if they buy it, they understand that they have to pay us the net out of pocket that we are out of on the deal. And if they don't buy it and they release it, then we sell it on the open market, and I think we probably get a premium.
Yeah.
So they, at the same time, they have, I think, almost $100,000 in engineering and design and architectural work into this. So it's going to be hard for them to walk away.
County own the lot that's adjacent to it in the park.
Yes, well, in the back side, and that's how you get the water and sewer to it.
Yep.
And so, it's a great parcel, but I think the supervisors were really happy when I circulated the news that day. They all congratulated us and thanked us.
I think they just have to decide the scope of their use of that thing.
Yep.
That's,
Yes, huge.
and they just they need to get a consensus on it.
But yeah, nice piece of inventory though for the summer sport.
The other thing that's interesting is the funds from the IDA, because those are county directed funds by the IDA, that it's going to be posted, we believe it'll be posted on the books as grant from the county. So we'll have to report it as income. We'll also we have $40,000 in employee retention credit that they told us you have to accrue when you submit the application. So if that money does come in, which we anticipate, we add that to the balance sheet. And we have about a $60,000 projected net income after we make other adjustments. So this is the year that we have to write off the $200,000 Flanders loan. And I was always concerned that that would make us look like we had a $200,000 loss. But because of these other transactions and the way that accountants tell us we have to book them, it'll be a marginal loss or none at all.
Okay.
What we do want to look at as we get into this is, as Martha continues with Steve's help to build the loan program, and if we do have $60,000 in net income, do we want to take 25 or 30 of that and add it to the loan provision? You're never going to have enough loan provision, even though we never use it. And if you reduce it, you can take it back into income. So
That way it doesn't show as income.
right. The other thing I want to bring to the finance committee is, we did, when the county reduced our revenue by $92,000 3 years ago, the board agreed to take a $100,000 emergency impact loan from the SBA. That's a 30-year loan at 2.75% because we're a not-for-profit. For the last 2.5 years, they have deferred the interest on that loan. There was a time where when you signed up for that loan, you were entitled to a $10,000 grant. But at the time, the SBA was only allowing you to request $1,000 per person up to $10,000. Congress went crazy when that happened because that wasn't their alleged intent. So we did get Martha pointed out to me, we could get a $4,000 makeup on that grant. So we applied for that. And at that time, I booked it as, I booked the grant of $4,000 and I booked $4,000 of EIDL deferred interest. So now January 1, you have to start paying the EIDL. So I go online and at this point we owe $6,600 in interest because I hadn't accrued anything for the first year. So I paid $7,500 and so now we're owed $99,600. And I'll have a proposal for the finance committee that we put it on a 5-year schedule and pay $1,700 a month and get rid of it. I don't want to take it. We could pay it off in one lump sum, but with taking $200,000 of our $700,000 in working capital to buy the land, I just think it's better to.
Is that interest front loaded too?
No, you pay the interest. You pay the interest as you would on a car loan or a home loan.
Yeah, but that's loaded, and most of the interest is in the front of the loan.
No, well, no, yes, but you're done in 5 years. It's I ran the amortization, and we can go over that at finance, but I do think you want to get rid of that. Why we have
Yeah.
it was, and that was always, I mean, I sold it to the board, which it was a hard sell, but we didn't know about PPP 1 or 2 at that time. And, the other thing is I wanted to get this started before we got the ERC money, because you've got to make sure that you can demonstrate you didn't use PPP money or employee credit retention money to pay off SBA debt with SBA money. So we got that sorted out. Membership, Kat's working on getting me a report as to first, we've been doing pretty well. I think we're up to about 25,000. We do have follow-ups to do, and we also have some follow-up with board members. I think that we're not looking for board members to do 2,500, but to be on the board, you have to be a member. And we have I think a $250.
Are some of the members still contributing, but less?
Yeah.
There.
And I think it's twofold. I think one, people are going into a recession, so a small business owner is looking at it differently, and I think the people in the know realize the amount of federal and state and local government support we're getting, and they're the people who are contributing to taxes to funding that. So, but I do. We have not budgeted the $40,000 from the employee retention credit, because until in government money, if my theory is until you get it.
Sure.
So if I think we'll get to the $35,000 in membership that we had last year, and I also think last year we did not. It was our first year back to an in-person annual meeting, and we didn't sell sponsorships heavily. But I think in the past we raised $15,000 to $20,000, and many companies now will give you sponsorship dollars because they see it as marketing versus membership money. Which what do I get for being a member?
Right.
I get an email from them once a month that they send to everyone else.
Right. They want to stay on the billboard.
Yeah. So I think those things are going well. On housing, as I said, Chris Brown starts on Tuesday. I'm talking with Chairman Morrell today at 11 o'clock. Supervisor Knott and Adams, the co-chairs of the Affordable Housing Task Force, have agreed that we would hold a virtual kickoff meeting of the task force on Wednesday, January 25th. It's a little bit early, but I convinced Chris that the purpose of it would be for Matt to welcome the people he appointed, for the two co-chairs to give an explanation of what they see, have Chris introduce himself, and then ask each person to go around. So we don't want to wait. Matt wants to get this started.
Yep.
And so, the substantive, we were going to have pattern come, but we're going to hold them till February or March to give an update. So this is really an organizational meeting, get to know you, get to understand what the goals of the organization are, and to introduce Chris. So he was much happier with that. He said, in the first 7 days I'm there, you want me to put on this meeting?
Right?
But we have to confirm it today, but it would be at 4 o'clock right after the Board of Supervisors 3 p.m. Finance Committee meeting. On broadband, I did give you a chart that shows you the data that we submitted to the PSC. We submitted it, I think it was last week, and the staff at the PSC got back to us yesterday, indicating that they would be happy to have a call with us to go over it with Dave and I and our consultant, John McAdoo. Right now, there's 1,168 identified unserved addresses when we looked at both lists. The issue that we had back in our initial comparison with the PSC was that we had 70% discrepancy between their data and our data. So as you know, we spent another $18,000 with the consultant to go back out and do field checks. And when we get all the way back, we now have a list that we think is in good shape. The other side of this is by Friday, we're supposed to be submitting data to the FCC that would challenge you're supposed to go in, and if you put your address in and it says you have service and you don't, you're supposed to challenge it. They have requested bulk challenges from government related entities. So we've been working with the county planning office, Patrice Perry and Don Meltz have been very supportive. Don's got, as you know, was our GIS expert when we first started this before he went to work for the county. We're having an issue because of the system that the FCC has set up. It's locked down now and the deadline's coming. So
Oh, it is down.
yeah,
Originally, when you download, you get the entire country, right?
well, we had that, so we finally got it down. He's working on that, identifying the duplicates and the discrepancies. But we may want. I don't want to get in a situation where starting tomorrow for the next that each of us in the office get 200 addresses to manually enter into the FCC's challenge. But if we have to, you'd have an Excel sheet on one column and you copy paste. But we're working with the Public Service Commission and the Empire State Development Broadband Office and the Capital District Regional Planning Commission. So all we have to do is find someone. You had to apply and go through a whole approval process to be able to do a bulk challenge. And the issue is they told us when we applied that they had paused the process. So if we can find someone that's got the license to do it, they can put the challenge in for us. Well, and so we're working through the Regional Planning Commission to see what they can do. It's very complicated.
Yeah, it is.
Part of it is that I think the test is different. I think that this federal is at 20, they want to make sure everyone has 25, and you always have to help me with the initials. MPBS? No,
Megabits.
megabits.
Is this correct about Germantown? I picture that as sort of a rural area, but I guess
Well,
GTEL is covered in town very well.
lately.
when you're when you're the provider in your hometown.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
so that's why they're so
Yeah.
spot on.
I did reach out to Bruce Bonsack. He is now retired. He sent me his cell phone and personal email address and congratulated him. And he did say it was bittersweet after, was his grandfather start that business or his
Yeah.
father? Yeah,
They came from Michigan or something.
yeah. So, but at the same time, the industry is consolidated. He is going to set up a meeting for us with Archtop. I felt rather than call Archtop directly, it was a courtesy to have him introduce us, even though we've met with them before. I think the position that we're looking at with Archtop is different than when we first met with them, where they said they were just going to lay, because now they have a provider. Now they can decide what they want to do on the peripheral of the existing GTEL system. I'm still working with Sam Parker, who used to be the governor's regional rep, who's now the state government affairs director for Charter, as well as we're working with Consolidated and on the New Lebanon and Canaan Delgado money project. I've been in touch with Caitlin Gilligan, who is Representative Molinaro's regional director. And we're also have been in contact with
Unknown caller.
with Ghent and Australia. So, I think housing and broadband, I think you can see the level of activity that we're involved with. I think the county is, very, very happy. And I think that, we do think there'll be some involvement as the county gets more active in the Cleaner, Greener Community Program. And I think it ties into Columbia Forward in the sense that we did have a meeting with, I'm going to ask Jessica to comment on, where we discussed we had Martha and the chamber people here, when we're out there, how do we cover each other? So if, the chamber's out there, if there's a loan to be made, how does it get referred? And Martha's now been participating in some events or meetings with clients with them. If Jessica is out there talking to supervisors, how do they know about what the chamber does and what we do? How does it tie into the work we're doing with housing? I don't think the supervisors are looking at the funding they're giving us in silos. So we need to be sure that if we're going out with a particular program, that to talk to a supervisor, that we're talking the entire company's game. Jessica?
Yeah, I think the answer to that is we're not wasting people's time, right? So that we're not having dual meetings. So that's been really well, working really well with the chamber's coordinating meetings. We've been, working closely with the chamber and scheduling that. A lot of the communication I have with the supervisors, I copy the chamber on and give them opportunity also to weigh in, just so it's, I think too, Mike to point out, is in addition down to the housing, now there's a whole nother pillar of communication that's going to be happening. How do we sort of make sure that there's not overlap, or we're all aware of what's happening, what we're all saying and doing. So I think that our meeting the other day with the chamber was really good, because we started to kind of break that down, having a conversation even yesterday with the chamber about how do we do that further, make sure that there isn't overlap. We're all able to, even if it's a high level pitch, if one of us are there and there's nobody else representing the other, can we comfortably give a pitch so it's not, somebody else is not going to do the same thing
Right.
the next day.
That would seem to strengthen the chambers. What's the word I'm looking for?
The value they bring.
Their value, yes.
Yeah, is that if they can understand enough about what we do, if
Right.
they're out and it just happens to come up, and we're not there, they can, not that they're gonna represent us, but at least point to, oh, that's who you want to speak with, Mark, or you want to speak with Jessica, you want to speak with Steve. Here's what they do, here's, in sort of to help, really what we keep talking about in quality of board is that we provide a resource. And it's not, oh, CEDC provides a resource that's separate. It's really, no, we're all are striving for the same benefit. We're all have the same
And if Martha is out talking about a loan and broadband or housing comes up, she has enough information to be able to appear that we're all one company. Not that we haven't been, but I do think that the more that each of us knows about what the other are doing, the stronger we can market ourselves. And I think that really came out through the strategic planning discussion when several board members came to me afterwards and said, we had no idea that you do all this stuff. And that's why we're really pleased to have Riley with us as in her role, which is now expanding into marketing and communications. And we're working with her on the website. She took the initiative over the break and came back to us with a communications plan, marketing plan that we're going to be working with her on. And I think, again, I think we want to be in a position of, and we don't want to be those people that all they do is say how much they do.
Right.
But we also want people to know what kinds of resources we have that they can benefit from. And, I think, Martha and I talked yesterday about, we have 6 months left on our SBA fiscal year contract, and we want to look at, the loans that we've brought in and how we can get more funding on the street. We are meeting on Friday with representatives from Greene County because we are the SBA facilitator in that county, and I think that I wanted to read an email from Carolyn Palmieri that says it all. Martha, Happy New Year's. And you may recall in the past, we spent money on behalf of anyone that wanted to participate from our SBA loan client using the grant money in an ad in the Register Star for what's it called? Martha?
Days to decades.
Dates to decades. And so, and Carolyn is the roastery. She owns the roastery coffee shop, I guess. Happy New Year. Sorry I delayed in response to this lovely gesture. I mean, we've gotten more responses like this that, oh, you're doing something for us, and it's a touch point. But this particular one, I thought was, I sent the newest logo to Rona, who's the marketing director at the newspaper. We're so happy to be part of the CEDC. Thank you so much for everything you helped us with over the past 2 years. Your insight, encouragement, knowledge, support, and uplifting spirit really made a difference in our business. We couldn't have come as far as we have without your help. So, you know, whether that becomes something in the annual report, testimonial, but I think, Martha, you know, first, thank you and congratulations. And, you know, maybe you're exempt the first year from a performance review. But
Just submit that.
yeah.
Mic drop.
Yeah. But I do think that, you know, we never stopped long enough to realize the impact we have. I had an email this morning from Supervisor Hoatling in New Lebanon related to broadband. Again, you know, saying, you know, thank you for what CEDC has been doing as it relates to broadband. And I had a call on Christmas Eve from Supervisor Knott saying what a great year we all had together. And you know, I do think that all of this is because of the efforts of everyone in the organization, even if the supervisor or the loan client doesn't see the role that they play in bringing the product and services and forth. I know Lisa's been busy getting all of these board-related approvals from the committees and at the board meeting coming up. And I also has been working on getting the Harris data ready so that some of it's already been entered for the reports that are due in March. And I would also, Jessica and I have been talking about the strategic planning process. And I think we both feel that what we have done so far has been better than we've ever had before. And that our, you know, our infrastructure, entrepreneurship, and quality of life pillars are pretty strong. And we're having a meeting that Carly is hosting at the college that came out of our last board meeting with the workforce development partners on Thursday. So, you know, that's moving forward, but I am going to just so it's to the left. Jessica put this chart together, and if you could just take a moment to go through it. Because we want to bring this to conclusion at hopefully this board meeting, so that you can't plan forever, you have to implement.
So this document really just outlines the existing strategic plan. I'll just kind of explain. So each pillar is highlighted in green. And then below in 2019, you've got each one of your objectives underneath. And then I put a column in 2023 to outline what makes sense based on all the conversations I've sat in on over the last 6 months, and then some documents that Mike shared in conversations with Mary Ellen about where the conversations that have happened. That's sort of what the 2023 list is. It's a culmination of all of that I've heard. So really, you'll notice some are copied over, is that made sense to continue going forward. The ones in orange are edits or suggested changes to a 2023 strategic plan. I did add a column for time frame, thinking about there's some things that are more immediate or more defined where there's a start and stop. And then measures, I added another column for things that we could do to measure progress on those items. And then I had internal costs. I really wanted to understand what would be the implication of that objective to our budgets. Very high level. I mean, it's not much, but I think it really highlighted more, looking at from a cost perspective, what are the things that had were maybe more staff specific time versus using funds to execute those objectives. So it's that outline. I don't know, did you want me to go through each one or do you?
No, I think why don't, if you can look at it and we'll bring it up at the board meeting and maybe we'll condense it so that you don't have to, but I wanted the executive committee to see the thought process as to how we got to where we are.
What's the highlighting for?
Those are the ones where it was suggested edits based on the conversations.
Okay.
And then where there is no highlights, it's just suggesting to keep that same objective going forward.
Okay.
You'll see on the workforce and education, I didn't add anything to the 2023, waiting for
We don't
Thursday's
know.
meeting. Let's see how that goes.
But I do think that you can always adjust this strategy, but it's kind of like a website. If you don't at some point launch it, you can spend forever tweaking it to get it perfect. And we all know nothing's perfect.
Thanks.
Martha, we did $14,000 worth of Columbia Forward grants last year, which means we have $38,000 left. That's the program that the county funded at 50 grand, where when you close a loan with us, you can get up to a $25,000 loan. You get 10% of the loan amount as a grant. So when you borrowed $10,000, you get $11,000 at the closing, and you only owe us 10. So that program's going well. One of the things with Columbia Forward that I did do, the contract was for 3 years, and the contract said it started on January 1 of 2022, but it really didn't start till July 1. So I have taken half of the fee, which for CEDC is 42.5, and I have it in deferred income, so that we can run the program through a full 3 years through June of 2025. I didn't want it to look like we're already at a more than a break-even point, but as it will come up when we have our annual review as to whether they're going to renew the contract. And I think, I'd rather be transparent that we put the money to the side. And we also took the 38,000 that we didn't spend on the grant program and put that in deferred revenue. And as we pass out those grants, we'll move it over to expense and income and expense. I think the Commerce Park, we have had some preliminary discussions with several supervisors and leadership roles, as well as with Ray Jurkowski, the County Public Works Commissioner, about now that there are no sites left in the Commerce Park, does the county want to pursue perhaps a private, to support a private developer into creating a Commerce Park, as opposed to building a second county Commerce Park? We did have a call, someone was closely watching real estate, and they saw that we purchased a parcel of land, and property owner on Route 9H between on 66 between 9H and the sewer plant in Greenport, called to see if we were buying any more land and were we interested, but
There's 9%.
well, he wants to sell it if we want to buy it. He doesn't, it's not listed. So, I think we have to have that discussion. I don't think we want to necessarily own a Commerce Park, but that's up to the county, because
Right.
they would have to fund its purchase.
That's interesting.
But I do think with no other shovel-ready sites, I think part of our quality of life or infrastructure should be, if somebody comes to us and they say they'll build a $15,000 or 15,000 square foot facility, and you say, well, okay, where are we going to put it? Where's the water and sewer? And while you're out looking for sites for housing, you can easily look at other vacant
Right.
commercial properties for.
The sewer plant at the Commerce Park is now defunct, right? They're
Yeah.
closing the Greenport.
Yeah. Now, the way that was done at the 11th hour with when the new supervisor came into Greenport was any non-Commerce Park tenant that wants to connect has to be approved by the Greenport Town Board. they didn't want they didn't want the Commerce Park to have a user that was going to take 50% of the excess capacity in Greenport, and all of a sudden put the people in the town of Greenport at risk if they had to spend money to expand their sewer plant.
Cold feet over the fish plant, the fish place.
Yeah. So we're very excited about a group that we're meeting with on Thursday, who got a $1 million+ restore grant. The Village of Philmont also got a restore grant. We're working with the Village of Kinderhook on some additional grants. And Jessica, on the Kleinkill farm, we did get the approval go forward based on a public hearing that we held with the Board of Supervisors at the end of December.
So yeah, so we submitted all of the documentation to the state last week. So now we're waiting for them to give us that formal, now you can begin. So Pines Hills is anxious to get that okay from the state. They've been holding off doing the work.
So a lot going on. The other thing that we're going to ask the board for approval is to enter into the 2023 contract with the county for the baseline services at $460,000. There will be a County Economic Development Committee meeting on January the 23rd. Our board meeting isn't until a week from the next week, but we'll get it approved by the county, get it approved by us, and get it signed. So the auditor, and we also, Dave has signed the county contract on the housing funding, and we're going to submit that today to Rob Fitzsimmons to review for Matt Morrell's signature. So, anything else?
No,
We just had one quick thing. I just hearing the email from the roastery. I think it's important for board members to know that, in my view, when I sit down for the closings, if not every single borrower, just about every single borrower at the closing table is saying the same thing to me and to Martha about how smooth the process is, how great it is to work with CEDC. So I think you should just know that, like that is not a one-off. It is, amazing. And I think it's important to realize we've been looking at this portfolio review for years, and it's always sterling. And I think a lot of it starts with the beginning relationship. And they
don't want to disappoint
they
Martha.
want to pay Martha. No, seriously. Because we know a lot of times these are loans of quote unquote last resort or from a risk standpoint. And so I just think it's important for you guys sitting at the table to know it isn't just magic that happens. It's not
It's a relationship.
and people, it's actually amazing to hear people talk about it.
Well, and I think it comes not only from the relationship that begins at the first instance, but also the technical assistance that Martha arranges for people, and the follow-up. Martha, just if you don't mind telling the story about the business that came that you had to turn down, they didn't qualify, but what you did to help them not think we just said no.
A gentleman trying to get his consulting business off the ground and needed working capital, but wasn't really able to show that he was going to be using it exclusively for the business because he had personal debt, it's all tied into one. And that didn't sound to me like a good fit for our loan program. And of course, you don't want to bring people to the loan committee that really don't stand a chance, just don't qualify. So I did some research work and made personal loans that don't require collateral. That's another one of his issues. And that have a reasonable interest rate. As you know, some of them are charging 24%. I haven't heard back from him, but at least I felt like we were offering him something. But I just also want to thank Andy. We make a good team, and he helps us out a great deal with our loan.
Same here, Andy.
Yes. Well, and Andy's work on the 9H closing was heroic because of just the nature of the transaction. Without getting into details, it was fairly complicated for buying a piece of land. And I know that the supervisors were elated. Getting a call from one on Christmas Eve to thank us is, continues to demonstrate how they see us as a partner, how they see us as someone, as a group that gets stuff done. And we can only We only do that because of the people on the team, whether they're staff here or whether they're our professionals that assist us, and Andy is at the top of that list. Also, we had to chase him to get his year-end bill in so we can book it. So thank you. I haven't looked at it. Maybe I won't thank you after I look at it. But we really appreciate it, as we do with UHY. I have one thing I wanted to discuss in executive session related to HR. I forget, I think it's personnel, related to personnel. I think it's